So after about a 6-month long break, this is my first proper game back on Supreme Commander. I played a couple sandbox games, but other than that, this was my first ladder game online. This was even before the Sentence game from last video. Other than being my first game back, this game wasn't too notable, actually. Scout plane spots a naval yard, very early actually. The plan for me is to try and finish the game before he can get it up and running properly, which should be easier because it's quite expensive to invest in Navy at this point, meaning he'll have a smaller land force. In the meantime, I send some raiding forces up to this group of mexes, and I send a bomber in to harass the naval yard. The raiding party isn't able to do much before it's intercepted. The bomber starts harassing the engineers assisting the naval factory. I decide to start gun upgrade, and after it's finished, I'm gonna go aggressive. I'm overflowing more than enough mass and energy to afford it. Here, I start losing some mexes to a raid, and my forces aren't in a position to defend it. My gun upgrade is ready, so I'm beginning to make my move on the bottom. At the same time, however, there's an enemy force at the top, very close to my base, and it's a scramble to get some defenses up. Fortunately for me, he hasn't invested very much in anti-air. My bombers are going to be able to help greatly. Meanwhile, my army marches slowly towards the enemy, and his attacking force just needs to be cleaned up. And now, I'm at his front door. Hey, now's a good time to build some energy storage.
Under attack.
I'm setting up a bombing run on his power generators to slow down his production. I split one bomber off to target some engineers. Okay, so at this point, there's pretty much nothing he can do. He's lost pretty much all of his forces. He managed to get some Tech 2 Navy up. A destroyer comes over to try and assist whatever's left of his base, but there's really not much it can do. And that's it, that's game one. Yeah, how about that? He did a Tech 2 naval rush on this very small map. And I was able to take advantage of that by having more units than he did. Still though, being my first game back, I played awfully and still could have lost this, so yeah. This is the next game on Fields of Isis. This was the second ladder game I played. So I've skipped ahead a bit now. I've got some air scouts out and I'm able to see his base for the first time. One thing I see is that he's setting up some PD at the front of his base. If he doesn't want to expand outside of his base, that's fine by me. That being said, he is sending out some units to try and raid. For the most part, I'm able to stop these raids before they get anywhere. This moment here though was a bit concerning. I had an unknown amount of forces moving towards my commander, and while this fight is happening, I happen to notice something important. There's actually a lot of mass in the middle. You can't actually see it when you're zoomed all the way out, but when you zoom in a bit closer, it just pops right in. It's off, it's on, it's off, it's on. I'll have to remember to grab that next time. Oh, and I lived, by the way. I killed all the units attacking my commander. Okay, so it's time to kill the PD and move into his base. His commander's down south, so I moved my units up to his base. He's built some jesters to help him out, but I have enough interceptors to crush that problem. As my first attack peters off, I'm getting ready for a second one, with some Tech 2 starting to be produced. He has some Tech 2 of his own, but it's not going to be enough. My army surrounds the commander, and it's over. So this game takes place on Varga Pass, and right off the bat, I only have one mech at my starting location. So I have to get moving somewhere that has more mechs once I build a factory and some power. I spot some reclaim in the corner, which reminds me of this. If you hold Control and Shift, you can see where the reclaim is and how much it's worth. I send an NG down south to grab these mechs, and I start getting some scouts out. Here, I still haven't gotten over the fact that there's only one starting mech. Heaven's generic build order guide certainly didn't help me prepare for this. My opponent responds, "It's not too big." Oh, whatever, I'll figure it out. At the time this was played, I didn't usually build tanks to defend my engineers, but this one was so valuable that I did, and it paid off. My scout sees some stuff, then dies, so I leave the other one to watch this choke point. Okay, now I'm starting to get some stuff online. I already have a factory up, and I'm queuing up some power and an air factory as well. I start building some defenses and queue up a radar at my left expansion. I have a nice amount of radar coverage now, and I'm sending a scout out to see what my opponent's doing. Radar has spotted a small group of units in the middle that I can easily clean up. One thing my scouts didn't see was anti-air, so I decided to take advantage of that. After doing a strafe over a mechs, they head towards the base for more juicy targets. I make a big misclick here. Anyway, back to the bombing run. I quickly realized the mistake I made earlier when it started sucking all the mass out of my economy. Unfortunately, I forget what the pause button is, and I cancel it instead of pausing it. I attack his right side expansion and start sending units down towards his base. When my army reaches his base, there aren't many defenses here, so I'm able to kill his mechs, including a Tech 2 mechs. I have another army massing in the middle, and I send it towards his right side base. While my army attacks his right, his army attacks my left. I don't plan on pulling my forces back either, so that base is gonna fall. Luckily, there isn't much of a defense on his base, or I might have been in some real trouble. If he had something to hold this attack back, I would have lost my expansion for nothing, and I would have been way behind him. Time to send the cleaning crew down south, and my new army to the front of his base. A transport is built and loaded with a couple engineers. It happens to spot some units too. The plan is just to grab all this reclaim I spotted earlier to fuel a transition into Tech 2 land, so I can get some pillars on the field. My production's enough to fend off the Cybran raiding party. Most of his resistance is at the front of his base, including his commander. I pull my forces back from the front, while my other units ransack his base. The starting location's cleaned up, and now it's time to move towards what's left. Cybran Tech 1 anti-air can be switched to target ground units, but they're not exactly effective. Yeah, my cleaning crew's campaign of terror has finally ended. His army's big enough to overwhelm it. And speaking of armies, his forward units have done their fair share of damage too. There's not much in the way of anti-air in his unit mix though, which I'm glad to take advantage of. I built this PD to protect my radar here. It's probably not the smartest PD placement, but it's certainly paying off here. Some interceptors have come in to assist his army, but it's all mostly already gone. And now I'm preparing for a major attack to end the game. As my army gets ready to attack, he makes an attack of his own. My units inch closer to his base, and they don't seem to be losing strength, but they may even be increasing strength. My army reaches his doorstep, and there seems to be nothing left protecting him or his base. So here ends the last game of the video. And that's the end of this episode. I have plenty more games played now and a lot more experience, so I should have some more interesting games up for you soon. But until then, thanks for watching.